A pregnant black woman enters the city's top hospital. She's in pain, but the nurses laugh at her, close and ignore her chart. The elevator doors opened on the 7th floor at Mercy City Hospital. The hall smelled of antiseptic and ketchupan. Odd mix, but familiar to anyone who'd spent time in emergency rooms. The sound of squeaky rubber shoes touched her ears. The lights were bright and cold. Her name was Amber Hayes. She was 8 months pregnant. Her belly was full and round. She knew her baby could come at any moment. She walked slowly, one hand holding her chart, the other pressing her side. The pain had started just minutes ago, sharp, burning, scary. She tried to stand taller, to act calm, even though all she wanted was help. But the first person she saw at the nurse's desk made her heart sink. 2 young nurses in light blue scrubs leaned close together. One wore her hair in a loose bun. The other pushed up her glasses and whispered something, laughing. Amber couldn't hear the words, but she saw them point at her. Look at her faded sweatshirt, the sweat stains, the older jeans. Her shoes were worn and patched. They didn't look at her chart. "Double quotes next, please," the woman said without looking up. Amber shuffled forward. Her breath came fast. The baby kicked hard, like a warning. She cleared her throat. "Excuse me, I'm here for triage." The nurse rolled her eyes. "You, ma'am? Wait over there," she said, voice sharp. "We're helping real patients."
Amber's
Breath caught. She swallowed hard. The other nurse leaned forward and whispered to her friend. But her lips moved clearly. "Why does she even wear that shirt?" The first nurse nodded and smiled, probably homeless. Amber tried not to cry. She turned to leave. But the pain flared. Her hand dropped. The chart slipped from her fingers and rattled on the counter. "Seriously, get your clothes right," the nurse laughed. Louder, another patient in the waiting area flipped his magazine to shield Amber's clothes. He looked away. Amber's fingers curled around the chart. She whispered to herself, "I'm sick." The first nurse tapped her pen on the desk. She looked either bored or annoyed. "Fill this out. Sit over there. Don't call us unless it's code red." Amber raised her voice, barely above a whisper. "What if it already is?" The nurse ignored her. She turned to her friend and laughed. "This is going to be a long shift." Amber felt tears threaten. She hated hospitals now. She hated nurses. She hated even her own clothes. But she remembered why she'd come. The baby. Her phone vibrated. She pulled it out. The screen lit up. One contact only. EMS always. The name was code. She had called this contact twice before. Both times quick texts. This time, she pressed call. The nurses continued chatting. A clean scrub man came by, saw Amber near the desk, holding her chart and phone. He teetered on being helpful. He leaned to say, "Ma'am," but the first nurse snapped her fingers. "Not your job." He stepped back. Amber held her phone to her ear. "Did you call?" Came a soft voice. She swallowed. "Something's wrong." "I'm close," the voice said gently. Amber ended the call. It barely made a sound in the noisy triage area. She shoved her phone in her coat pocket. She looked at her chart. No one had checked it. She stared at its edges. Her heart pounded. The baby kicked again. She pressed a hand against her belly. The pain was worse, no knots in her back and stomach. She turned to go sit in the waiting room. Each step was slow, careful, each breath forced. She reached the row of chairs. Her stomach gave a hard punch. She let out a quiet moan. A few heads turned. The pregnant woman in pain. Some stared. Most didn't react. Amber closed her eyes. She gripped the edge of the chair, hoping it would steady her. She pulled out her phone and texted quickly. "It's happening now. I hurt." Seconds later, her phone chimed. It was a location. A car at the hospital entrance, not the emergency bay, but near the valet area. Someone was there. She wanted to stand, to walk, to run. The lights in the hallway flickered. Cart rolled past with a crying Baby Ann irony she couldn't ignore. Minutes felt like hours. The nurse behind the counter wiped her brow and yawned. She didn't look up. Another nurse checked her nails. Amber wished she could snap them. She wished they could feel her pain. The pain came harder, worse. Her legs shook. Sweat gathered under her arms. Her breathing came too quickly. She clenched tightly to the chair arm, knuckles white. Then her phone buzzed again. From EMS. Always. At the front desk. Hurry. Amber tried to stand but felt dizzy. She leaned forward. The baby's kick hit her chest. She gasped. She stumbled out of her seat. Past surprised patients. Past cold windows of patient rooms. She reached the edge of the triage zone. Nurses stared at her. Their eyes flicked between her chart and her face. She opened her mouth to speak. But the pain hit again, a wave of fire. She gasped. Please, the nurse at the desk hit a button under the counter. A soft beep. A red light flickered on. Ambulance code. Heart rate. They didn't know. Amber closed her eyes and braced herself. Then, quietly, she heard hurried footsteps shouting, "Mrs. Hayes? Mrs. Hayes?" A tall figure in a dark suit pushed through the door. A man in his late 30s, wide-shouldered. His eyes were tense. He looked directly at the nurse's station. He wore a hospital board badge. Chair of the board. The nurses froze. He strode forward. "Move," he said, voice quiet but hard. They jumped aside. He came to Amber, eyes locked on her face. "Amber?" His voice cracked with relief. She looked up. The pain didn't stop, but it faded for a moment. He knelt in front of her. He whispered, "I called ahead." She shook her head. They wouldn't. He squeezed her hand. The nurse stared down. At them, unable to meet his eyes, he turned and said to her quietly, barely above a whisper, but every word sharp, "An intern will see her now. Move." Amber felt a weight lift. She nodded. He helped her stand. They walked down the hallway toward a private emergency room door. The nurses watched. Mouths open. They had laughed at her earlier. Now they watched her walk with dignity and strength. And just then, Amber's phone buzzed again. A new message. "I'll be right there." Amber smiled weakly. Pain still came. The baby still moved. She felt weak, but she felt powerful, because she wasn't invisible anymore, and her voice, even in silence, had begun to matter. She sat in the private room, still holding her belly, but no doctor came. No nurse returned. Then she heard laughter. Outside her door, Amber sat on the small hospital bed. Her gown was too loose, her feet cold, her body sore. The pain had settled into something sharp and constant. She had been moved into a private exam room, but since then, nothing. No nurse, no doctor, just silence. Only the ceiling fan mend. The chair beside her was empty now. Her husband, Marcus Hayes, had gone to talk to the board. He had entered, like a storm, calm but dangerous. His eyes had burned with quiet anger when he saw how she'd been treated. But now he was gone, and she was alone again. Amber looked around. The monitor beeped slowly, but no one had connected it to her. The fourth pole stood by, unused. Her chart sat on a side tray, still closed. Then, voices dot from outside the room, soft at first, then louder. "I mean, who even shows up like that?" She looked like she walked in off the street. Her husband might be big, but she's nothing. Amber's eyes widened. Her heart beat faster. The voices were familiar. She stood slowly, quietly, took one step toward the door, and placed her ear against it. She probably married him for money. One nurse said, laughing, "Right?" The other replied, "I bet she's playing him. These girls know how to act, and she didn't. Even though she was in labor? Please, I've seen better acting in high school plays." Amber stepped back. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but rage. They were still laughing, still mocking her, even after everything, even after they knew who. She was down and sat back down. Her hands cradled her stomach. She felt her baby move soft. "Gentle kicks," she whispered. "You hear that, little one? Even now, they don't stop." Then her door opened. A nurse walked in. It was the same one from the front desk. Her name badge read, Danielle. She didn't smile, didn't apologize, just pulled out the blood pressure cuff like this was any normal checkup. "Arms out," she said flatly. Amber slowly raised her arm. Danielle wrapped the cuff around it. It's too tight. Amber winced. Danielle didn't notice or pretended not to. Then came the thermometer, then a cold stethoscope. Danielle moved mechanically, saying nothing. Amber finally asked, "Where's the doctor?" Danielle replied without looking at her, "Busy." "How long?" Amber's voice was calm but firm. Danielle shrugged. "Could be hours. He's seeing patients who, actually need help." Amber stared. "You mean people who dress better?" Danielle froze for a moment, then forced a smile. "I didn't say that." Amber leaned forward. "No, but you think it." Danielle stepped back. Her fake smile faded. "You're not the only patient," she said, turning quickly and walking out. Amber sat back, furious. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It wasn't a mistake. It was hate, wrapped in a smile, dressed like care. She picked up her phone again. This time, she texted someone else. "I need someone inside." Quietly. A moment later, a reply came. "Already here, just waiting for the signal." Amber smiled. This time, she would not be silent. A woman in a gray suit walked through the hospital. Her badge read medical ethics, but her eyes were set on one nurse only. She had questions. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. Inside the hospital, staff bustled from hallway. 2 hallways, some carrying clipboards, some joking over coffee. But none of them noticed the quiet woman in gray, walking with calm steps and a sharp gaze. Her name was Jordan Lee, and her ID badge was heavy with power. Internal Affairs, Medical, Ethics Division. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. She was already watching. Jordan had received a private complaint. It didn't come through the usual channels. It was sent directly to her private email, through a special board override, one only used by high-level hospital partners. That's what got her attention. And now, she was here. She stopped at the nurse station. A young man glanced up and smiled. "Can I help you?" Jordan held out a small white card. "I'm here for a quiet observation," she said. "Don't tell anyone I came. That's important." The man's smile faded. He nodded quickly. She leaned in. "Where's Nurse Danielle working today?" He hesitated, then pointed down the West Wing hallway, room 77. "She was with a pregnant woman a few minutes ago." Jordan's lips pressed together. "Thank you." She turned and walked away. Meanwhile, back in room 77, Amber lay on the bed, rubbing her belly. She could feel the stress in her muscles. Her body wasn't just in labor, it was on fire with emotion. The humiliation still burned in her mind, but she wasn't broken. She was waiting for something, or someone. Then her phone buzzed again, a short message. Flora Amber smiled faintly. She didn't need to reply. The wheels were already turning. Down the hall, Nurse Danielle leaned against a cabinet, chatting with another nurse. "I swear, if I have to deal with that woman again." "Which one?" the other nurse asked, curious. Danielle rolled her eyes. The board man's wife." "Oh," the other nurse smirked. "She's still here?" Danielle laughed. "Barely. You should have seen her face when I didn't fall for her. Little princess act. I treat all patients equally. It's just not equally fast." They both giggled. Then they froze. Footsteps, heels, click. 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 The sound stopped behind them. They turned slowly. Jordan Lee stood still, holding a clipboard. Her voice was polite but cold. "Nurse Danielle?" Danielle straightened quickly. "Yes, my name is Jordan Lee. I'm doing a surprise ethics evaluation." "Starting now?" Danielle blinked. Her face drained of color. "Dub what?" Jordan smiled very slightly. "I'll be observing your behavior for the next few hours. Interactions with staff, especially with patients like Mrs. Amber Hayes." Danielle opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The other nurse quickly walked away. Pretending to look busy, Jordan stepped closer. "Let's begin, shall we?" In room 77, Amber heard the knock. The door opened. Jordan entered, alone, her suit sharp, her gaze calm. Amber sat up, Jordan nodded politely. Mrs. Hayes, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to check your baby. I'm here to check something else. Amber tilted her head. Jordan continued, I'm watching how this hospital treats patients like you. Amber looked relieved. Then you came at the right time, she said softly. Jordan took a chair, sat down beside the bed. Hear your story. All of it. From the moment you walked in, Amber nodded. Slowly, carefully, and then she began. Amber thought her medical file was simple. But when the inspector checked it, half the pages were missing, and someone was already trying to cover their tracks. Jordan Lee sat beside Amber's bed, her pen ready. Start from the beginning, she said. Amber took a deep breath. I came in because I felt pain. Sharp. I knew something wasn't right. Jordan listened carefully. Amber continued, voice calm but strong. They told me I had to wait. I did. But others were taken in before me. I asked again. They looked at me like I didn't belong here. Then a nurse said I should go to a public clinic. I was humiliated. Jordan nodded slightly, and then they moved me. But only. After my husband showed up, even then no doctor came, just Nurse Danielle. She didn't explain anything, hurt me with the cuff. She left me alone again. Jordan's eyes didn't blink. I understand. I've heard enough for now. She stood up and stepped outside. Meanwhile, at the nurse station, Danielle noticed Jordan approaching again. Can I help you? Danielle asked, trying to smile. Jordan held out her hand. I'd like the full medical file for patient Amber Hayes. All pages. No copies. The original file. Danielle hesitated. She forced a laugh. Oh, I think the system's down. Jordan didn't move. Her voice was calm but firm. Then give me the paper file. Danielle's smile cracked. She turned around and went to the file cabinet. She opened it, pulled out a thin folder. She handed it to Jordan. Jordan raised an eyebrow. This is it. Danielle nodded quickly. Jordan flipped it open, just 2 pages. Vitals and a sign-in form. No doctor notes, no scans, no medication logs, no comments from staff, nothing. Jordan looked up. Danielle looked away. Jordan turned and walked off without a word. Jordan entered a quiet office and placed the file on a desk. She dialed a number on the hospital phone. This is Jordan Lee, Internal Ethics. Patient file 707 Amber Hayes, incomplete. I believe documents have been removed. I need a backup record from the hospital cloud. Emergency access. A voice replied, Understood. Sending in 30 seconds. Back in room 77, Amber sat quietly, rubbing her belly. Her phone buzzed. It was from her husband. Board meeting over. I'm on my way to you. Also, they're scared now. Amber smiled weakly then. Jordan re-entered, holding a new printout. This, she said, is the real file. Amber looked confused. Jordan continued, Your blood pressure was flagged dangerous 2 hours ago. You needed to be checked immediately. But the alert was deleted from the nurse's system. Amber's face paled. They ignored that? Jordan nodded. They didn't just ignore you. They risked your baby's life. Amber looked down at her stomach. For the first time, fear entered her eyes. Deep in the hospital's records room, a quiet intern found something Shikunya nurse had. Removed an urgent warning from Amber's file, and now someone was trying to erase it completely. Maya Brooks was only 24, a new intern in the hospital's record department. She had one job today: search all deleted patient alerts for possible errors. Usually it was boring, but not today. She stared. At the screen, one name stood out. Patient, Amber Hayes. Alert, dangerously high blood pressure. Deleted by Nurse D. 1142. Maya's hands trembled. That alert wasn't supposed to be deleted. In fact, it should have sent an automatic message to the ER. But it didn't. She quickly pulled up the system logs. Someone had not only deleted the alert, but also disabled the emergency notification. That wasn't just a mistake. It was a cover-up. Upstairs, Jordan Lee paced outside Amber's room. She had the real file now, the evidence. But something didn't feel right. Too quiet, too. Easy. Her phone buzzed. Maya's name appeared. Jordan picked up. Maya. Maya spoke quickly. It wasn't just a missing report. Someone deleted the alert that your patient was in danger. The system was silenced. Jordan's heart raced. How do you know? I'm looking at it now. It says Nurse D removed it. Same time the patient complained of pain. This isn't an accident. Jordan's voice hardened. Print everything. Bring it to me. Stay quiet. Meanwhile, in room 77, Amber was finally seen by a doctor. A new one. This time, his voice was soft, his face serious. You should have been monitored an hour ago, he told her. You were in early labor, and the stress made it worse, but you and your baby are okay for now. Amber closed her eyes. Relief washed over her, but only for a moment. How could they ignore that? She whispered. The doctor didn't answer because he didn't know, but someone else did. Down the hallway, Nurse Danielle sat in the break room, staring at her phone. She had seen Jordan walking with the full file. She had seen Amber's husband arrive too, shaking hands with hospital board members. Danielle was sweating. She texted someone, they're digging. We might have a problem. The reply came fast. Handle it or we all go down. Danielle stood up quickly. She wasn't just scared now. She was dangerous. Maya held the report that could expose everything. But before she could reach Jordan, Nurse Danielle was already waiting for her in the hallway. She wasn't smiling. Maya gripped the report tightly in her hand as she hurried. Down the quiet corridor, the papers in her folder showed clear. Proof. Amber's alert was deleted. The system was disabled. It all pointed to Nurse Danielle. She had to reach Jordan, fast. But as she turned the corner, her footsteps slowed. There, leaning against the wall, stood Danielle. Her arms were crossed. Her eyes were cold. Maya froze. Danielle stepped forward, smiling tightly. You look busy? She said softly. Maya tried to walk around her. I have to deliver this. But Danielle placed a hand on the wall, blocking her path. I heard you were asking questions, she whispered. That's not your job, Maya. Maya's heart pounded. This is serious, she said. That patient could have. Danielle stepped closer. You're just an intern. If you mess up, nobody will hire you. Ever. Especially not after I tell them you caused a panic in the system. Maya clenched her jaw. This isn't about me, she said. This is about a pregnant woman who could have lost her baby because of you. Danielle's smile disappeared. She reached for the folder. Give it to me. Maya stepped back. No. Danielle's voice dropped. You don't want to make enemies here? Just then, a voice echoed from the end of the hall. Maya. It was Jordan Lee. She saw the tension, saw the folder, saw Danielle. Maya, come here. Maya rushed past Danielle and into Jordan's arms. She handed over the folder, without saying a word. Jordan opened it. Her face turned pale with anger. She looked up at Danielle. I suggest you go to your station now. Danielle hesitated. Then she turned and walked away, quickly, in room 77. Amber lay resting. Her baby was fine. Monitors beeped softly beside her. The nurse on duty now was quiet and respectful. The door opened. Jordan entered. Followed by Maya, Amber sat up slightly. Jordan sat down beside her bed. We found the alert. It was deleted. Deliberately. But now we have proof. Amber's eyes widened. Who would do that? Jordan didn't answer at first, but Maya stepped forward. She didn't want anyone to know you were in danger. She wanted you to suffer. Amber's voice shook. Why? Jordan finally spoke. Because some people see power, and they fear it. Amber lowered her head. She wasn't angry. She was tired. But deep down, she was also strong. The hospital's top leaders sat around the long table, chatting casually. But when Mr. Hayes entered silent, holding a folder, every voice fell quiet. What he said next, none of them were prepared for. The boardroom on. The top floor of St. Bellamy Hospital was made of glass, leather chairs, and pride. 12 department heads sat around the table. Coffee mugs steamed. Laptops clicked. No one expected trouble today. Then the door opened. James Hayes stepped inside. He wore a calm face, clean black suit, Quiet power. No smile, no greeting. He simply placed a thick folder on the table and said, "This is a report on what your staff did to my wife today." The room fell silent. Dr. Melvin Parker, the hospital director, stood up. "Mr. Hayes, we've already begun investigating. I'm not here for promises," James said, his voice low, but clear. "I'm here for answers." He opened the folder and began laying out papers one by one. A printed medical log showing Amber's critical blood pressure, a time stamp showing it was ignored for 45 minutes, a screenshot showing Nurse Danielle, deleted the emergency alert, and a witness report from intern Maya Brooks. Gasps echoed around the table. One board member whispered, "She could have died." James nodded. "And so could our unborn child." The room froze. Meanwhile, downstairs, Nurse Danielle stood outside the admin office. Her hands shook. She tried texting someone again, but no reply. The doors opened. 2 security officers stepped out. "Come with us." "What?" One officer simply said, "Investigation. Internal review. Bring your badge." She hesitated, then followed. She didn't notice the nurses staring from behind the glass. Back in the boardroom, Director Parker wiped his glasses and looked at James. "We're deeply sorry. You and your wife deserve far better. Nurse Danielle will be placed under immediate suspension. The hospital will also issue a public apology and cover all costs for your family." James didn't blink. "I don't care about costs," he said. "I care about culture. This hospital can't keep ignoring Black women's pain." No one argued. They knew he was right. Later that evening, Amber was moved to a private suite. She rested peacefully, with soft lights and quiet monitors. Jordan stood beside her. "Your husband's amazing," she said with a small smile. Amber smiled too. "I know." She looked down at her belly. "And this baby, already stronger than anyone knew." Suspense ending lead to part 8. As Danielle sat alone in the HR office, a staff investigator slid a photo across the table. It was security footage from the hallway. It showed Danielle deleting the alert. Frame by frame, there was no escape now. Danielle sat in the cold HR office, trying to act calm. But when they placed the security footage in front of her, frame by frame, the truth she'd buried started to come out. And so did a secret from her past. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Nurse Danielle sat across from 2 investigators. One was from hospital security, the other from HR. She looked tired, sweaty, angry but hiding it. The security officer spoke first. "We found the surveillance footage. Nurse Danielle, it shows everything." He turned the laptop. A video played. It showed Danielle at a nurse's station. She was logged into a computer. The screen displayed Amber's medical file. Then she clicked. Deleted alert. High-risk pregnancy, hypertension crisis. Paused. Danielle didn't speak. The HR officer leaned forward. "Why did you delete that alert?" Danielle avoided eye contact. I thought it was a duplicate. The system glitches all the time. I was just cleaning the file." "No," the officer said. "You didn't report the deletion. You disabled the alarm system. That's deliberate. That's criminal." Danielle snapped. She acted like a queen, walking in here like we owed her something. "I didn't sign up to babysit rich women who think they own the place." The room fell silent. The HR officer narrowed his eyes. "You knew who she was?" Danielle realized her mistake, but it was too late. At that moment, down in the staff break room, Maya and Jordan sat reviewing more records. They weren't done yet. Jordan clicked open a file Danielle had worked on last year. Her eyes narrowed. "Maya, look at this. Another Black woman, same department, same alert deleted. No follow-up, no report." Maya gasped. "You think Danielle's done this before?" Jordan's face darkened. "I think she's made a habit of it." Back in HR, the lead investigator placed another document on the table. "This isn't the first time your name has come up, Danielle. But this time, we have video logs, witnesses." Danielle's shoulders sagged. For the first time, she didn't fight back because she couldn't. That evening, Amber sat with her husband in the private suite. Her hand rested gently on her stomach. The baby kicked soft but strong. James gently kissed her forehead. "It's over," he whispered. But Amber looked distant. "No," she said quietly. "It's just beginning. There are more women like me, and some of them don't get this lucky." While the hospital moved to erase Danielle's name from its walls, she made one call from a cheap apartment downtown. But the voice on the other end wasn't surprised. Turns out, Danielle was never working alone. Danielle's apartment was dark. The curtains were closed. Her uniform was thrown across a chair. She sat on the couch, knees pulled close, phone pressed to her ear. It rang once, then twice. Finally, a voice answered, "Speak." Danielle swallowed. "They found everything. The Hayes woman, the files, the video, it's all coming out." The voice didn't react. Instead, it asked, "Did you delete the old file?" Danielle paused. "No, not yet." The voice sighed. "You promised me you would, years ago, before this even started." Danielle's eyes filled with tears. "I tried. But I didn't expect her to come here. I didn't know she was his wife." There was silence. Then the voice said, "Then we have a bigger problem." Back at St. Bellamy Hospital, Jordan was in her office with Maya and Mr. Hayes. They now had evidence of 3 deleted alerts. It's all tied to Danielle. One of the patients had delivered early. Her baby spent weeks in intensive care. Another had transferred to a different hospital and filed a silent complaint ignored. James tapped the file. "She's not just careless. She targeted black women. This was personal." Jordan nodded. Maya added softly, "She didn't delete alerts for white patients. I checked." They all looked at each other. Something darker was beneath this. Meanwhile, Amber sat in her private room, looking out the window. Her baby kicked again. A soft knock came at the door. It was Nurse Lilatha, one who had always smiled at her. Lila entered with something in her hand, an old file. "I thought you should see this," she said. Amber took the file and opened it slowly. It was a 5-year-old incident report, and there, black and white, was Danielle's name next to another. Deleted alert, and the patient, a black woman named Simone Walker. Status: miscarriage. Result: no disciplinary action. Amber's breath caught in her throat. Lila spoke quietly. "She was my best friend. We were interns together. Simone never got justice. Danielle was protected. Amber's..." The voice was calm but cold now. Not anymore. In her apartment, Danielle hung up the call and opened her closet. She pulled out a locked box. Inside was an old ID badge, but it didn't say nurse. It said student assistant, West Hill Medical Institute. The same place where Simone Walker had once worked, and below it faded. Scribbled in pen was a name no one had seen yet. Dr. Callan, supervisor, the same man, who now sat on the hospital board. Suspense ending lead to part 10. Jordan opened the faculty files and cross-checked the name. Her heart stopped. Dr. Callan once mentored Danielle, and he was now quietly overseeing the entire investigation. The cover-up had gone higher than anyone thought. Jordan thought she was investigating a nurse's mistake, but when she opened an old faculty file and saw Dr. Callan's name, she realized this wasn't just about negligence. It was about power, and it went all the way to the top. The hospital hallways were quiet. It was early morning. Most of the staff was just arriving, but Jordan Lee had been awake all night, digging through old records. Now she stood in front of the board member directory, staring at one name. Dr. William Callan, chairman of medical ethics. She whispered to herself, "Ethics. You trained the nurse who ignored ethics." In her office, she laid out everything. Danielle's deleted alerts, Simone Walker's miscarriage. Report a scanned document showing Danielle's internship under Dr. Callan, in a disturbing pattern every time. Danielle was close to being punished. The report stopped cold. Maya walked in with fresh files. "You're not going to believe this," she said. She handed Jordan a staff memo from 4 years ago. It was an internal warning about Danielle's attitude and patient bias, filed by nurse Lila, rejected by Dr. Callan. Reason: No action necessary. Jordan leaned back in her chair. He protected her. Over and over. Maya looked nervous. Should we tell Mr. Hayes? Jordan nodded slowly. Yes, but we need more. He'll want proof. Meanwhile, Amber was recovering well. The baby was stable. But her mind wasn't at rest. She kept seeing Simone Walker's name in that file. Her heart ached. Someone lost a child, and no one said a word. Her husband sat beside her, quiet and angry. We'll make sure no one forgets her name again. In a quiet, luxurious office on the top floor, Dr. Callan stirred cream into his coffee. He didn't seem worried. But his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. They know about Simone Walker. Jordan is getting close. Callan stared at the screen. He tapped the desk, then slowly. He deleted the message at the same time. Maya and Jordan were walking through the records basement. This place smells like old paper. Maya joked. Holding her nose, they reached the last cabinet marked 2018 Incidents Closed Cases Jordan. Unlocked it, and there it was, a signed letter from Dr. Callan to the hospital board. Regarding Nurse Danielle, I believe her actions were based on system confusion, not intent. No need to escalate further. Jordan whispered. He lied. He knew everything. Maya stared. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a cover-up. Night in her apartment. Danielle stared at the old ID badge in her hands, the one that still said West Hill Medical Institute. She opened a box beneath her bed. Inside were photos her and Dr. Callan. Years ago, he had once called her his rising star, but now he hadn't called since her suspension. Danielle picked up her phone. She dialed. No answer. She tried, again straight to voicemail. Tears filled her eyes. She had been loyal, and now she was alone. The hospital board expected silence, they thought. No one would speak. But when James Hayes stepped onto the press stage holding a file of names and deleted alerts, no one was ready for what he said next. The conference room was full. Reporters packed the chairs. Cameras flashed. Microphones pointed forward. It wasn't a hospital update. It wasn't a new policy. It was a storm. And James Hayes was the center of it. He stepped up to the podium. Calm, sharp. Focused, behind him stood Jordan Lee. Maya and Amber now, stronger than ever. James cleared his throat. 2 weeks ago, my wife Amber Hayes was admitted to this hospital with a pregnancy emergency. A few heads nodded. Everyone knew the story by now. But what most people didn't know is why no alarm was triggered, why no one responded on time, and why it almost cost my child's life. He held up a file, thick, full of papers. This is why. He opened it and pulled out a page. A nurse, Danielle Miller, intentionally deleted a critical alert. And this wasn't the first time. He held up another page. Here's the name, Simone Walker. 5 years ago. Same department. Deletion. Different outcome. She lost her baby. Gasps filled the room. Amber's eyes welled with tears, but she stood tall. Jordan stepped forward now. Danielle didn't act alone. Her mistakes were protected. And we have reason to believe. A member of the hospital board helped cover them up. A reporter raised his hand. Who? Jordan paused and said clearly, Dr. William Callan. Cameras clicked, voices shouted, questions flew. Did he know about the miscarriage? Is this racial targeting? Was there financial motive? Will he be removed? James stepped back to the mic. Dr. Callan trained Danielle. He blocked every complaint, every red flag. He silenced nurses and denied patients justice. Across the hospital in his office, Dr. Callan watched the press conference live on a small screen. His hands were clenched. His jaw locked. He didn't move, but his phone buzzed nonstop. Emails, board messages, voicemails. It was starting in a quiet hospital hallway. Nurse Leela leaned against the wall. She watched the broadcast on her phone and finally smiled. Simone's name. had been spoken, loud, clear, public. She whispered, "You weren't forgotten." Meanwhile, Danielle watched from her apartment, her face pale. "They really did it," she muttered. "They exposed him." But then her screen froze. A new message popped up on her phone. "He won't go down alone. Be ready." Danielle stared in silence. After the shocking press conference, the hospital is thrown into chaos. But just as the truth begins to rise, someone tries to silence Jordan. And this time, they don't care how. The next morning, protesters stood outside St. Bellamy Hospital, signs in hand. Voices loud, faces angry and determined. Justice for Simone. Stop racism in healthcare. Protect black mothers. Inside, tension filled the hallways. Doctors looked down. Nurses whispered. And board members avoided eye contact. Jordan sat in her office, overwhelmed by calls, lawyers, reporters, victims. One message stood out. "Thank you for saying her name. Simone was my sister. She died broken." Jordan closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She never imagined it would go this far, but now there was no turning back. Across the hospital, Dr. Callan held a private meeting with a few board members. His voice was cold. "We don't run a courtroom. We run a business." One woman, Dr. Patel, whispered, "We can't ignore what's happening." Dr. Callan leaned forward. "Then we control it." He slid a folder across the table. "Here's what we do. We say Jordan accessed files illegally. We suspend her for breaching hospital privacy. We cast doubt before she casts more fire." That afternoon, Jordan received a letter. "You are temporarily relieved of duty pending investigation of misconduct." She read it twice. Her hands trembled. Maya burst into her office seconds later. "They can't do this. You exposed the truth." Jordan forced a sad smile. "That's why they're doing it." Amber, still recovering, heard the news and immediately picked up her phone. She posted the video she had. Recorded, her voice echoed on every feed. "They silenced the nurse who saved me. But they won't silence me. Not this time. Not again." Within hours, the video went viral, millions of views. Thousands of comments. People were waking up. Meanwhile, Dr. Callan got another call. A woman's voice spoke on the other end. "I was one of Danielle's patients, too. She deleted my warning alert. I lost my baby." Callan froze. "How did you get this number?" The woman replied. "You trained her, right? Then you trained her to ignore women like me." Callan stared at the wall. Cracks were forming everywhere. That night, Jordan sat at home, suspended but calm. Maya brought over dinner, trying to cheer her up. But Jordan wasn't defeated. She smiled gently. "I may be off duty, but I'm not done." She opened her laptop, typed, "Class action lawsuits ain't Bellamy victims." A nurse appears at Jordan's door with a flash drive, one that holds secrets buried for over a decade. But when they open the files, they realize the truth started long before Amber's story. The rain fell lightly that night as Jordan plugged the flash drive into her laptop. Beside her sat the young nurse who had come forward. Her name was Nina. She kept glancing over her shoulder like someone might be watching. Jordan clicked open the folder. It was titled, "Callan, Patient Files, 2012 to 2019. Inside were scanned documents, audio recordings, internal messages." The first file made Jordan go cold. Patient Tara Benson, age 22, complaint: pain and unusual bleeding during pregnancy. Signed nurse Danielle Miller, doctor approval signature Gregory Callan, outcome baby lost. Internal report, case closed. No foul play. Nina whispered, "Tara was my cousin. She died a year later. No one ever believed her when she said something felt wrong, that someone ignored her." Jordan scrolled down. There were 7 more files. All women, all black. All had alerts removed or ignored. Amber joined them, sitting beside Jordan. Her voice cracked. "So we weren't the first." "No," Jordan said quietly. "You were just the first who survived." Meanwhile, Dr. Callan sat in a high-rise conference room with his lawyer. "We have to get ahead of this," he growled. But his lawyer looked nervous. "There's something you should know. There's talk online, a flash drive, names, evidence." Callan's eyes narrowed. "Who leaked it?" The lawyer didn't answer. Callan slammed the table. "They want to ruin me." That night, Jordan sent the files to a major journalist known for exposing medical injustice. She only wrote one line: "These women deserve to be heard. Help me make them heard." The next morning, a bombshell article hit the news. 7 black mothers, 1 hospital, 10 years of silence. The story spread across social media, TV, blogs. Simone's name was mentioned. So was Tara's and Amber's. It was no longer a local issue. It had become national, across town. Danielle saw the headline. She froze. Her phone buzzed. No number. A message popped up. "Tell the truth before he buries you too." Danielle dropped the phone. Her heart was racing. She wasn't just a villain. Anymore, she was a target. Meanwhile, Amber received a call from someone unexpected. Tara's mother. Her voice was gentle, broken. "Thank you for speaking up. I prayed someone would. For 10 years, I prayed." Amber's eyes filled with tears. "You're not alone anymore." A photo inside a sealed envelope reveals something. Shakuna, mysterious donor, has been funding the hospital's silence. But when Jordan digs deeper, she realizes this goes beyond healthcare. It's about power. Jordan stared at the photo. It showed Dr. Callan smiling beside a man in a dark suit. They were shaking hands in a quiet restaurant. Sitting at the same table was Danielle Miller. Amber leaned in. "Who is he?" Jordan flipped the envelope over. "No name, no return address. Just one note. Follow the money." The next day, Jordan called Maya. "I need you to help me dig. The man in the photo, he's not on the hospital board, but he's involved." Maya's fingers flew across her laptop. A few clicks later, her eyes widened. "His name is Henry Belgrave. Wealthy donor, owns several medical supply companies, including the one that sells equipment to St. Bellamy." Jordan nodded slowly. "Now it makes sense. He funds the hospital. They protect his interests." Meanwhile, at the hospital board, Dr. Callan looked uneasy. Whispers had started. The protest outside had grown larger. A reporter had called his office directly. Danielle had stopped answering his texts, and now Henry was furious. "You promised no heat," Henry snapped on the phone. Callan tried to calm him. "We'll shut it down. I'm handling it." Henry's voice went cold. "You better, because if I fall, I'm dragging you with me." Later. That night, Jordan received a second email. No name, no subject, just a file titled "Patient Contract, Emergency Services Freeze." She opened it. Her heart dropped. The hospital had signed a silent agreement with Henry Belgrave's company. If certain patients, low income, uninsured, or higher risk, triggered too many emergency alerts, their cases could be delayed or quietly downgraded to reduce costs. Jordan whispered. They were picking who mattered and who didn't. Stepped forward. Like me. Like Simone. Like Tara. Danielle Miller sat in her apartment, watching the coverage online. She opened a drawer. Inside were several old patient reports. She had kept them all these years. Her hands trembled, but suddenly there was a knock on her door. She peeked through the peephole. 2 men in dark suits. Not police, not reporters. One of them spoke softly. "Miss Miller, we know you've been talking. That's not safe." She backed away, breathing fast. They slipped a card under her door. "Stop now, or end up like the others." The next morning, Jordan received an anonymous message on her phone. It was just one sentence. "Danielle is in danger. They're silencing witnesses now. Danielle is missing. Her door is left open, and the only thing she left behind is a patient file with Maya's name on it." Now, Jordan and Amber race to uncover a deeper plan before someone else disappears. Jordan held the report in her hands. Patient. Maya Thompson status. High-risk pregnancy. 2017 nurse on record. Danielle Miller. Doctor signature. Dr. Callan. Outcome. Emergency procedure denied. Alert removed. Patient dismissed. Amber leaned over her shoulder. Maya never told me she was pregnant. Jordan whispered maybe she didn't know. They rushed to Maya's apartment. She opened the door, confused. What's going on? Jordan handed her the report. Maya sat down slowly. Her hands shook as she read. I thought I just had bad cramps back then. They said it was nothing. She looked up, eyes full of pain. They let me walk out. And I lost a baby I never knew I was carrying. Jordan sat beside her. They erased it, Maya. They erased you. That's what they've been doing for years. Meanwhile, Danielle Miller was locked in a room. A warehouse, a man paced in front of her. You kept records? He said coldly. Why? Danielle's voice trembled. Because one day, I knew someone would care. The man leaned in. That was your mistake? He turned off the light and walked out, leaving her in darkness. Back at Jordan's house, Maya opened her laptop. She searched her old insurance portal. There it was. Visit billed, routine checkup. No mention of emergency symptoms, no pregnancy, no follow-up. Amber gasped. They doctored the system. Jordan nodded. This is bigger than one doctor. It's a machine. Danielle tried to stop it. That night, Jordan received a voice message from an unknown number. Danielle's voice shaking. They found me. I don't have much time. Jordan, you were right. The files, the alerts, the contracts, they were all paid for. It's a folder hidden in my locker at the hospital. Top shelf, behind the red binder. It's all in their names. Dates, everything. Finish what I started. And the call ended. Static silence. Jordan stared at her phone. We're going back to the hospital, she said. Amber stood. I'm coming with you. Maya wiped her eyes and nodded. Me too. They broke in through the back at midnight, empty halls. No security. Inside the locker room, Jordan found Danielle's locker. She opened it. Behind the red binder was a thick folder, labeled in black marker. For the day the truth matters. Inside were scanned alert removals, emails between Callan and donors, dozens of silenced patient cases, and a payment log. Donor, Henry Belgrave amount, $2.4 million note. In exchange for policy protection, Amber whispered. We have everything now. Jordan nodded. No more silence. With the evidence in hand and enemies closing in, Jordan, Amber, and Maya must decide. Hide in fear or speak the truth before the world. But when the hearing begins, one voice silences the room and changes everything. Security lights flickered above them. Footsteps grew louder. Jordan clutched the folder tight. We can't get caught now, she whispered. Amber pointed. There, emergency stairs. They ran down the hall, barely escaping out the back exit as a security team stormed the locker room. Back home, Jordan scanned every document. Amber helped upload files. Maya drafted a statement. By morning, they had sent the evidence to National News, a civil rights law firm, 3 advocacy groups for black maternal health. They didn't stop. They wouldn't stop. That same afternoon, breaking news alert, whistleblower files revealed 10-year pattern of racial medical abuse at St. Bellamy Hospital, private donor named in suppression scandal, hospital CEO and Dr. Callan. Under federal review, the hospital tried to release a statement, but it was too late. Public outcry exploded. Protests doubled. Lawyers called nonstop. Government officials demanded a hearing. 1 week later, National Medical Board hearing, Jordan sat beside Amber and Maya in a large courtroom. Media cameras flashed. Dr. Callan sat across the room, sweating. Silent, pale. Danielle, rescued by the FBI days earlier, walked into the room alive, but shaken. The judge called Jordan forward. She stood, holding the folder, and in front of the nation she spoke. This isn't just about my friend Amber, or about the babies lost. This is about every black woman who was told her pain didn't matter. This is about the value of a human life not being measured by race or income. And it ends now. Gasps filled the courtroom. Danielle stood too, raising her voice. I was part of the system. I stayed silent. But I kept the truth because one day I hoped someone would be brave enough to expose it. That day is today. Later that day, Dr. Callan was arrested, his license revoked. The hospital board resigned, and the donor, Henry Belgrave, was indicted for bribery and conspiracy. Amber and Maya were offered a public apology, but more importantly, they were believed. 1 year later, Amber gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Simon after the woman whose death started it all. Maya started a foundation for maternal health justice. Danielle now spoke at schools and medical conferences, sharing her mistakes in redemption, and Jordan. She became a national advocate, leading one of the strongest healthcare reforms in a gen.